Hello and welcome back to JP Gaming and our hard mode in Kerbal Space Program, where I'm trying to unlock the whole tech tree only having 10% science gain. And today's episode we're gonna start off with our Mun flyby vessel, and we're gonna be upgrading it a little bit with the parts that we've gotten from the last time, and we're this time gonna be flying by Minmus. And I have unlocked the Science Junior, which is a great way of getting science, of course. But I'm actually not gonna have this on this vessel because we still don't have auto struts or any type of strut. So to try and make this a little bit more doable, I am actually not having that on. I have actually behind the scenes, I played for about an hour trying to make a rocket that had the Science Junior on it to go and fly by the moon or Minmus, but for some reason all of those rocket designs, they were just not cutting it. But yes, we upgraded this one, which I basically took away those weird structural thingies that I used on the sides with the vertically mounted decouplers, and we put some normal horizontal decouplers on there, or side decouplers, or whatever you would call them. And yeah, we got this thing into orbit without any big problems. It was a little bit wobbly there in the beginning, but now we are on our way towards Minmus. And yeah, this little pug engine, it is quite slow, but it is efficient, and I don't know what I would do without it. I think that's a part of the Restock Plus mod. The normal Restock mod only changes the color of and that kind of texture scheme of all of your rockets, or rocket parts, I should say. The Restock Plus, though, it does add a couple of parts. And I do really like having that pug engine in the beginning of the game. It just makes everything so much easier and kind of more realistic in my mind, that you would have some kind of rocket engine that is very low powered but also very efficient in the beginning of a space program. I don't know, that's just me, and I really like having it. But yes, we are now flying by Minmus. Like I said, it went without any big hiccups. We did have a bunch of fuel left. We had way more than we needed, which is how I like doing it. And oh yeah, I should also mention that in the last episode, the game did crash with Jeb in the driver's seat of the main pod. When we were trying, I think we were trying to just go into space and space high above Kerbin and get those Science Junior experiments done. And yeah, like I said, the game crashed, and sadly enough, the game registered that Jeb had apparently been lost or missing in action or something like that. So Jeb is sadly enough no longer with us, which feels really on point for this type of challenge, that we're losing Jeb straight away. But anyways, we have Valentina, so there's no problem there. We just had to level her up, just as we did with Jeb. And now we did get the struts, so now I'm going to be trying to make a new rocket that we're going to be using to try and land on Minmus. I think that's what I'm doing at least. Oh no, yeah. We do need a little bit more science before we can do that. So I actually decided I'm gonna make a small rocket that we can use just to get to the biomes that are surrounding the North Pole. Because of course we have the northern ice caps. We have, I can't remember what they're called. We have the tundra, and we also have the, is it just the ice caps? I can't remember. But anyways, we have 3 biomes there, pretty close to each other, so I'm just using this rocket to try and get to the north. And of course we're also launching from the Womingberg launch site, which is the one that is, well, it's placed most northern in, on Kerbin. So it's easiest to get to the North Pole. from the Womingberg launch sites. And as you could see there, we were pretty close to actually burning up our landing legs there. And good thing we didn't, because we definitely need those landing legs, even though we are falling at a very slow pace here. Even just using the drogue chutes, I haven't actually deployed our main chute yet. But yeah, just using those drogue chutes, we are falling down quite slowly. But still, those landing legs are a very good kind of insurance that your Science Junior won't explode upon impact, because that Science Junior, it is very fragile. It can blow up very easily, and I know this from experience. I have blown them up so many times. Like, even landing in water at like 5 meters per second can blow it up quite easily. And yeah, now we're out with another rocket. The same rocket, or one just like it, I should say. And now we're going to, I think it's the ice caps. Or something like that. Yeah. We're going into some mountainous region. And that's also a place where those landing legs can really help out, try and stabilize the whole craft a little bit and make it easier to land. I was afraid here that we were going to be landing like right on one of those big slopes that we have here. There's a lot of mountainous regions here before we get into the very big flats of the North Pole. But we were fine, and we landed on a bit of a slope, but nothing major. Nothing major, really. It was fine. And yes, as you could see, I also took all the science from flying above this region, or flying low above this region. You can, of course, take the thermal thingamajiggy temperature thing. Yeah, you can take the temperature, and you could also do an EVA and a crew report. And those differ a little bit when you're in different environments. Like, for instance, you can't take the temperature above all the different regions flying low if you're in an environment that doesn't have an atmosphere. And that is also something I learned the hard way by just trial and error. But now we're actually building for the main mission, I should say, of this video, where we're going to be going to Minmus, and we're going to see how many biomes we could actually take at once. So yeah, this is going to be our Minmus hopper, we could say. Minmus biome hopper. So yeah, we're going to try and maximize the amount of fuel we could actually get to Minmus. So I'm building up a quite large bottom stage here, where we're going to have 4 of those liquid fuel boosters, and as you can see right now, I'm also adding in some solid rocket boosters. I'm also going to take down the thrust of those to about 80%, because normally you don't need all that power in those. And yes, before I launched it, I also realized we are going to need a little bit of battery for this. And the launch profile for this is a little bit different from what I normally do. We're actually not firing up the mid stage right now. I have that set to a separate stage, so the middle liquid fuel engine is not being fired in the start, it is being fired now, and that is so we can save that fuel for later on in the flights and use it, yeah, higher up in the atmosphere. And that is generally something you don't want to do, but I don't have any fuel lines yet, so I wanted to do kind of an onion staging where I would still have a bunch of fuel left in the mid stage without actually having to engage all the rockets at once. So yeah, that's what I did, and it worked, and we actually had some fuel left in that stage. I could have gotten all the way to orbit with that, but I ditched it a little bit earlier than I had to, with about, I think we had about 200 meters per second of delta V left in that stage. But we ditched it early, of course, so we don't leave any debris. That is also one of the goals for this series. And something I just generally do nowadays. I just try to not leave any debris anywhere. And I think that is going to be one of the harder challenges for later on in this whole challenge thingamajiggy. to not leave debris all the time. But for now, it's not that hard. And like I said, it's something I try to focus on doing pretty much every time I fly something in KSP, no matter how difficult the challenge is or what I'm doing. I always try and plan around not leaving any space debris. It just makes everything so much easier, and I feel a little bit better knowing that I don't leave any space debris. And yeah, to our way to Minmus here, we overshot a little bit, but that's fine. We have an abundance of fuel and an abundance of delta V. So we're going to make a little mid-course correction here to get us closer. I think we got down to something like 23, 24 kilometers above the Minmus surface, which is, yeah, it's pretty decent. I think that's a pretty good height to go for. And once again, we were a victim of that weird laggy thingy where the intersect node disappears, or the intersection disappears when you're time warping, which is just so weird. And yeah, you might have seen that I changed the position of my Kerbals there because Valentina was actually in the lower capsule, and I do want to have Bob in the lower capsule because then he'll just be a lot closer to all the science experiments, and he can go out and restore both the Mystery Goose and the Science Juniors without having to let go of that ladder, and that's just gonna make the whole thing a little bit easier. But now we're actually jumping out a whole lot with Valentina because I'm going around and looking at what biome we're over, so we can take EVA reports from each of those biomes. And I think we got pretty much all of them from around the equator. We're not 100% equatorial, but yeah, the ones you can get are a couple of different flats, lowlands, midlands, highlands, and slopes, of course. And those are pretty much the biomes that we're going to be hitting when we get down to the surface as well. I think those were the greater flats that we kind of started with and now ended with. And that is also where we're going to be landing. And yeah, now we're going in for the landing. And we're still using that transfer stage, which is great that we could use that this far. And I'm kind of using up all of that fuel a little bit prematurely. And with that, I mean, I'm using it up earlier than I actually have to for the landing itself. But that was just so I could ditch it and start using this stage and make sure that the transfer stage actually flies away and explodes, and we're once again not leaving any debris behind. And now we've done our first landing. The landing went well, and now we're just doing what we always do all the experiments, place a flag. Bob does some backflips showing off his experience in acrobatics. I have heard that he was an acrobat before he became an astronaut. Or maybe he just went into the wrong room. He thought he just saw Crobot. He didn't see there was astronaut and not acrobat. I don't know, that was a bad joke. But it was a joke at least. I just thought of that now. Anyhow, we landed on the lowlands and yeah, kind of on a slope here. It wasn't the best place to land. But the good thing about having those two capsules there is that when we leave Valentina in there, the SIS stays on, so Val can keep the craft like stable as we go out with Bob and do the stuff we need to, restoring the experiments and planting the flag and all of that jazz. And yeah, now we're going to our third biome, which was the Midlands. And yeah, it's basically rinse and repeat here. We're going to be landing, doing all the experiments, and restoring all the experiments that we need to restore, plant another flag, and I'm also naming the flags what biome it is. And the reason for that is twofold. It's one, so I know which biomes I have been to, but it's also two, I then know what the biomes are, And right here I found a pretty good kind of hopping, what would you say, trail? A good hopping trail. So I could quite easily, while losing very little fuel between each hop, go to a lot of different biomes. And that of course means that we can use this trail another time when we get here with maybe some other science experiments, because of course we have like the seismometer and the gravioli that we can go back to Minmus and get science from those as well. We're going to be unlocking those in the future, so it's good to have this this kind of trail set up for at least a couple of biomes. And now we're going to be landing in the last biome for today, which were the slopes, which were they were very conveniently placed right next to the highlands here, which was great. So I'm just going out once again, placing a flag, naming it slopes. So we know that we have that. Once again, Bob is showing off his acrobatic skills by doing some backflips there. And now we're just going for, going for an orbit. And we did have enough fuel that I could technically have done probably one more biome, but I wasn't really sure if it was going to be worth it or if we were going to be able to do it, since we were running out a little bit thin on fuel, and the next biome were probably on one of the other flats or the North Pole, which was quite a distance away. It was pretty much on the other side of the planet, or at least 1/4 if we were gonna go to the poles. And if we go to the poles, the burn to get back to Kerbin could have been a little bit different and taken a little bit more fuel. So I decided to just head back home instead and take the safe route, basically. And now I'm just burning off some of that fuel that we have left to kind of try and slow us down a little bit more and ensure that we don't burn up in the atmosphere. Because that's of course one of the big issues that we might have in this whole series. We might burn up in the atmosphere while re-entering. Because I did also turn up the re-entry heating to 120% to try and make it a little bit harder. Because of course this isn't hard enough. Opening the parachutes here at about 1,000 meters and then just splashing down. And now we're gonna see how much science we actually got, and I think we got a little bit over 200 science. So we're gonna be unlocking a couple of things here. So we get what did I unlock? Oh yeah, we unlocked that thing, so we get some solar panels, and we also unlocked the struts and some more engines. So we have that for next time, and we can actually go to some other planets. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.